Cricket South Africa have announced their touring squad to Sri Lanka for the limited overs series. Very exciting times for South African cricket. Very exciting times, and we are anticipating a good series from this year out. It's where we're going to be able to see South Africa take proper shape heading into the World Cup. It's the final chance for South Africa to be able to see that in before the World Cup, of course. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be chatting about the squad. I'll be showing you guys the names that are on the squad, and as well as talk about some of our favorite guys and who we think should have been there, who should have not have been there. There's some names that are in this squad that is a bit puzzling, and there's omissions that are a little bit puzzling too. So we're all going to speak about it because we've got a full panel for our last final stream, daily show stream on Cricket Fanatics Magazine. So this is the final one that we'll be doing, guys, going forward. As you would have heard, our big announcement last night. So we wanted to make it a big one. So we've invited the whole gang to come and join us. So we've got a big panel for you today to discuss these topics. Before we get going, you guys know what you have to do. Please click subscribe to this channel and click that notification bell for all future videos, please. You know that you have to do that. We even made a nice custom button for you so that you can go ahead and do so. If it's red, it shouldn't be. Click it right away. Also, go ahead and download the latest issue of the magazine, as well as subscribe to all the editions, all the back issues. Link is on the screen, as well as in the description as well. Guys, let's get into it. Really excited about this one. Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics Magazine. This is your final live stream of the daily show. I'm your host, Khalid. This is the show where we talk about all the major talking points in South African cricket. This is my co-host Aditya and my other co-host as well for tonight. There's Mpho, we've got Abai, and we've got Werner. And we're going to be talking about the squads. Basically, that's all. The Sri Lanka tour is going to be taking place. We obviously have the fixtures here right here for you. As you can see, there's going to be ODIs played and T20s. 3 ODIs, 3 T20s. So it's the last, I would say, preparation for the World Cup. So obviously with that, the squads were obviously announced. The major omittance, I would say, from the T20 squad is Yanaman Malan. And I think the major omission from the ODI squad, obviously Quinton de Kock being arrested. But let's get into it a little bit more in depth here. Let's talk about these squads. I think let's start with the ODI squad, because I think it's something that we can talk about to head into the future. And let's end off with the best part, which is the T20 squad. So I'm going to put on the ODI squad on the screen, and I'm going to obviously ask you guys to give your insights into it and what you guys think about it. So let's start with Aditya. What are your thoughts on this? And then we can go Mpho, and then we can go Werner, and then we can go with Abai.
This is a similar squad to what we saw in the West Indies and in Ireland. I guess my worry for this team is that there isn't a lot of experience with how to counter spin in the subcontinent. And although Sri Lanka also has an inexperienced team, I think the spinners will be a handful. In addition, David Miller's absence would be telling, because great as it is to have Dwayne Pretorius back in the mix, it would be sort of unrealistic to expect him to perform at optimal levels, right after COVID. So I think his fitness will be monitored, his form will be monitored. But I think David Miller's absence in the middle order will be significant.
And your thoughts, Mpho?
So yeah, look, right now I'm not. I think we shouldn't be focusing on ODIs, but we do need to play the Super League. I'm happy with this team because it gives guys in that middle order an opportunity. Carl Verena and Heinrich Klaassen will get a lot of games. And to a certain extent, that's what I want, because if I look to 2023, it's going to be those two plus David Miller who are going to be in that squad, in and around that 3-4 situation. So, well, that 4-5, and then the reserve person will be either one of Klaassen and Verena. So I'm happy with that. From a bowling perspective, I'm surprised Junior Dala is back. We haven't had any cricket, so I don't know what's changed between now and then, unless if he's there for cover. I would have rather have given one of the guys going to the World Cup an opportunity, because in the T20 squad, effectively, those guys are either going to be in and around the UAE. I'd have rather given those guys an opportunity. But yeah, I think it's just very weird, because we had a very awkward momentum one day with all the rain in Poch. So like a guy like Junior Dala, that was his moment to prove to us that he deserves a Proteas call-up. He didn't get the opportunity to. So I'm just interested in the reasoning behind him getting a run instead of other guys on circuit. But yeah, so that was my only surprise. But outside of that, yeah, you got to rest the big guys. We're going into the World Cup. You can't expect them to go from bubble to bubble to bubble to bubble. And so, look, yeah, I'm keen to see how this team performs without Quinny, without David Miller, and see how actually they get along. It's going to be quite tough, because we do need to start winning games in the Super League. But yeah, trial by spin all the way, and it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, Werner, were you surprised that it was the batters that got the rest in the ODIs rather than slacks of KG and maybe Anrich in the ODIs, maybe? Because obviously those are guys that are going to be playing IPL and would need a proper a break before that.
Yeah, I'm not surprised with Quinton being rested, seeing as he's playing in the 100. And he probably does need a break for the ODI, so I can understand that. As far as the bowlers, Rabada will have a solid rest after the Ireland series. He should be fine, but I do agree it's going to be a big workload going from the ODIs to the T20s, IPL, then World Cup. So maybe you'll get a game or two off through the ODIs. Maybe that's why Junior Dala came in, which was a surprise for me as well. I would have maybe given some other players a chance, maybe Michal Pretorius, who was previously picked in the T20 squad but never got a game, or maybe bring in someone like Nandre Berger, or maybe Nabe, who had a good CSA T20 challenge, maybe can give him a run in the ODI setup. But anyway, yeah, so I'm a bit surprised. I'm a bit concerned. Our batting looks a bit light, and we really need the Super League points. So we can't afford to lose another series now against Sri Lanka, where I think we're placed 10th or something in the league. So we really could do with a solid few wins here. And then somebody I would like to look to step up is Klaassen, who's been in very bad form of late. But we do know that he's probably one of our better players off spin in the squad when he's in form. So hopefully he can turn things around. So it will be interesting to see how he and Verena goes through the middle period.
And Abai, from those names, those guys that missed out, which guys would you have liked to see instead of maybe Junior Dala? Seeing that Junior Dala was the one surprise amongst all of us over here, who do you think would you have picked for that position?
Let's see here. I probably would have gone with Sasanda Magala. I know he did get an ODI call-up much earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken. He's earned a chance through domestic performances, and aside from his death bowling, he can also hit a long ball down the order. So it would be cool to see him get a chance. Fortunately, he's been picked in the T20 squad, so that shouldn't be a problem. But if we go back to the ODI and stay on topic, I would say that I don't really have any issues with players getting rested, but at the same time, South Africa has to play with the same level of intensity. In fact, they lost an ODI against Ireland, so to bounce back from this is like the ideal series. And not long ago, an Indian squad with several newcomers managed to win an ODI series against Sri Lanka in Sri Lanka. So this series should be winnable. I mean, I'm not being overconfident or anything, but South Africa should be able to win this series. like 2-1 maybe, if I were to make a prediction.
Khalid, I have a question for the selectors. It would be, what did Lutho Supamna do wrong? Because he's been in the fray, he went to play for SAA, and when you're looking for a bowler, Junior Dala didn't go to Zim. When you're looking for another bowler, you're not going to pick him or Marco Jansen or Miguel Pretorius. You're going to go pick Junior Dala. So there's a bit of a Boucher maybe looking for guys he trusts with a Titans feel to this bowling attack. But I'm sitting here going, what happened to that emerging tour? What happened on that emerging tour that Lutho doesn't get a look in again, when earlier in the year, he was there. He was in and around the squad.
Yeah, interesting point. And the only thing I can maybe think of is maybe pace. I don't know. But I mean, when it comes to that, I don't think that's a good enough answer for that. That's the only thing that I can think of, because, I mean, the fact that if they're going to go with a similar type of mentality like they've done before with South Africa, where they say, oh no, guys that were selected before, they get first preference, all of that stuff that we've been hearing at the SJNs, they need to be consistent with it then all guys that have been given chances before. For example, Kyle Verreynne, as we will see in the T20s, I'm surprised that he didn't get an opportunity. So Abai, I'm going to let you go first and then Aditya. Let's talk about the T20 squad, because for me, I think the massive omission over here is Janneman Malan. I think that the guy just after, I mean, he had one particular game that he wasn't so good now recently with the T20 squad. But I mean, come on, Henrik Klaasen hasn't ran home with it either. So for him retaining his side, I mean, Kyle Verreynne has previously performed in the T20. So, I mean, what's your thoughts on this, Abai? Because I know you have to run off soon. And then Aditya, you can go on straight after that.
Well, quick correction. I don't think Kyle Verreynne has played a T20 international for South Africa yet. But anyway, if we look at this squad, I'd say Janneman Malan's unlucky, but at the same time, I'm not completely sure if he'd be a certain starter in the playing 11. But based on what I'm seeing in this squad, it's basically pretty similar to the Ireland series and the West Indies series, and okay, even though this is a pretty strong squad, there will be plenty of spin on offer. I've got a question for everyone here. Can I just get a show of hands who watched the highlights or live Australia versus Bangladesh, the series I just completed? Who watched it?
Well, you obviously can see the raise being,
So a bit of it.
Well, okay, but what we saw in that series was it was heavily spin conducive. I don't think there was a total that was greater than 140 by a team that was batting first. So that goes to show that that the learning curve for playing spin, it's not easy. And even though South Africa have a few good players of spin, this could be a pretty interesting series, and it could be anyone's game. But at the same time, every game counts, because the T20 World Cup is like 2 months away, and aside from this series, there are only a handful of South Africans playing in the CPL and a handful of South Africans playing in the IPL. So for those who aren't playing in the IPL, this is their best chance to show that they are good enough to be part of the conversation when it comes to the T20 World Cup squad. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks, Khalid.
No
Take
problem.
care,
Thanks, Abai. Now, thank you for reminding me that, yes, that Kyle Verreynne has not played in T20s yet. I mean, that slipped my mind. I've seen him so many times in the ODIs and seen him perform over there. I still believe that he should have been given an opportunity in the T20s at some point, because if they were calling him as the backup keeper for Quinton de Kock, I think he can be that in all formats, and why not in T20s? But I mean, okay, yes, maybe you're looking at Henrik Klaasen because of experience, maybe in the T20 international arena. What's your thoughts, Aditya, on Janneman missing out, as well as Pechlikwayo missing out in the T20s?
Yes, it would be interesting to hear the reasoning behind both of those decisions, because I'd imagine that both would be traveling to the World Cup. So the fact that two of them are not selected for the Sri Lanka series is a bit surprising, because if someone gets injured, you definitely want Janneman to have game time. I don't think he'd have gotten a lot of confidence out of his T20 performances in Ireland. And I think if there's a player who needs exposure against spin, That's Yanaman. I'd say the same for Andile Peklukwayo as well. Um, he was he was termed as a player who was low on confidence, and for him then to be missing out on what is perhaps South Africa's last series before World Cup, uh, that's a bit baffling to me. But I think overall the squad is again fairly similar to what we saw in the West Indies and Ireland, but they do have a trial by spin coming their way, and it's not going to be particularly easy. So that multi-dimensional game that we've been talking about for so long, where batters need to find different ways of scoring runs, that's going to come to the fore because your release shot cannot be a six. It can't be a boundary. It's going to be one of those series where players are going to have to run hard between the wickets and really pierce the gaps well.
Yeah. Now, Werner, I don't have anything, and Paul, I don't have anything really against this player that I'm going to be mentioning now. I'm just trying to get this to work. My computer's a little bit slow these days. So when I look at it again and I put up the squad, I'm going to put up the squad again. What the concern for me is that I don't have anything against Riza Hendricks, and I am a fan of him and as a person as well. But when you're looking at the amount of, you could say, anchor roles that have been picked in this particular side again, I don't think Riza Hendricks at the expense of Yanaman Malan is a good call, because we are looking for guys that can attack in the power play and really hit the ball really hard and score boundaries quickly and put runs on the board. And we've seen what Quinton de Kock and Yanaman could do together at the Blitz as a partnership, and the understanding that they have. And we saw what Aiden Markram and him can do as a pair. I mean, you're keeping Aiden Markram with the same mentality because you want that attacking type of player. Yanaman is one of the best. Yeah, and I'm saying, but Yanaman is one of the most attacking young batsmen in the country that we're supposed to be grooming for the next generation and for the next. I mean, are you going to pick Riza in the side if you have Temba Bavuma, Asif van der Dussen, David Miller? Does Riza make it? Don't you want then an
Riza
attacking?
doesn't start. Riza's your
Yeah,
backup
exactly.
batsman.
But that's my point.
But
Wouldn't
but
you
we
want
don't
an
need two
attacking
backups
batsman on the
then.
pitch?
No, my thing is this. It came down to Riza and Yanaman, and the selectors in the West Indies chose Riza. And they're gonna stick with Riza. Riza's ahead of him in the pecking order. And largely it came out of that CSA T20 earlier in the year. Whatever happened with I don't know what team you guys call yourselves in the Cape. I don't know what was going on, but Yanaman was unavailable. Riza
Yeah,
for
he
the
was
Lions
injured.
was so good at the top. He's been so good in the two MSLs. Yes, from a Proteas perspective, you could be like, this is like last chance saloon for him. And to a certain extent, if you look at this 18 that was selected, this is the 15 going to the World Cup. Remember, it's 15 squad members, and the 7 are not playing squad members. They're just going to sit in the stands. So there's no point, as I said before, Yanaman's not going to be in your. I don't think Yanaman's going to be in your 15 squad. I never thought of it. And to a certain extent, the question whether Riza comes into your 15-man squad is also a question depending on the answer with Faf, which I don't know what that answer is. But to a certain extent, the selectors have shown you, even in the West Indies, Riza's ahead of Yanaman. You can question it all you like. You can say he's not an explosive batsman. Fine, that's okay. We'll take him at the Lions, and you'll see it again when the domestic season starts. But Riza has earned that spot. And if you want to look at the top 2 run scorers in the MSL, are those 2 at the top. So it's just unfortunate for Yanaman, but that's what the selectors are seeing right now. Yes, you may disagree with it. I was like, well, okay, they've made a decision, because I needed them to make a decision on the openers, and they did. Riza's not going to play. He shouldn't start in Sri Lanka because you're looking to play with your final combinations. It's Temba and it's Quinny and it's Aiden at 3, and then you can figure out whatever configuration comes after that. On Andile's situation, it's a lot of mismanagement that has happened with Andile. Remember, he got COVID during that England series, so he didn't get to play. He comes back, he gets injured. He gets a few games here and there. And then in the West Indies, he doesn't get a game at all. He also then he only gets like a handful of games in Ireland, and we expect him to to be the guy, and then somehow Vian Mulder has pushed him out of contention. That for me is something, because yes, he's underperformed this year, and I'm not going to deny that, but he's had extenuating circumstances from COVID in December last year all the way to the injuries that he's picked up earlier this year. And in that, for him to get back and going hasn't been the best efforts for him. And he's now not going to be in the 15-man squad going to the World Cup. That's what you need to read into this. Yanaman and Andile are not going to be in the final 15 members of that World Cup squad. And to a certain extent, this is the large bulk of the squad that's going to come in, say for Faf coming in and making this 19, and then you have to pick 3 other guys. And I'm sure one of them will be Calveren in case a wicketkeeper gets injured in the World Cup. So to a certain extent, I'm happy because now we funneled everything down into a World Cup squad, and then now they just need to pick their 15 and their 7, and we must move forward. And I'm happy that they've done that. And to a certain extent, in your point, if Boucher wanted Yanaman Malan, Boucher would have gotten Yanaman Malan. So the question is, why couldn't they? If that's the case. But Reza Hendricks has a whole lot of evidence that he can put forward to say that in a race between him and Yanaman, he should also be considered.
Now, like I said, nothing against Reza Hendricks at all. And I wanted to just pose the question because I know what a big fan base we have for Yanaman on this channel. We have a lot of fans that love him, and I needed to ask the question.
I'm a fan of Reza
Werner,
because I spent the last 5 years watching Reza at the Wanderers, and quite frankly, the guy can do it, and he's done it.
Yeah,
so.
we've seen it. We've seen it in South African colours. We've seen it when India was here as well. But I just wanted to pose the question, and if it was Yanaman that was falling out of this plan, or people wanted him in, Werner, for you, who is the fall guy? If it's not Reza, then who would it have been? Would you say, if you wanted to fit Yanaman into the side, or do you think that are you happy with the squad that was selected?
I'm decently happy with the squad. I am not too surprised, to be honest. I was looking at our squad in Ireland playing, and it was just too many openers. So I expected one of the openers to drop out. In this case, it was Malan. It's not that surprising because Reza did perform quite well in the West Indies when he got a chance. He did well in that last game versus Ireland. Though he did start slow, and he does have a tendency to start slow at times. But he did pick it up very well at the back end, and I think he scored like 60 odd or something. So I'm not too surprised. He's a very solid player. As I agree with Mpo, I don't think he will be starting. I can also see De Kock, Bavuma, then Markram, Rassi, Miller, and then however they want to go at 6 and 7, maybe Pretorius and Mulder, maybe Pretorius and Linde, and the other bowlers I don't know. But the one thing we haven't really talked about is Maharaj made the T20 squad, and which is quite interesting. We have quite a few spin options, and everyone has performed well. So Shamsi is number 1 in the world. Linde and Fortuin have both taken their opportunities very well. Now Maharaj is into it as one. We all know he's a fantastic bowler, and he did very well in the CSA T20 challenge. So it will be interesting how they bring him in. I don't think he has a T20 international cap yet. And it's the same type of bowler than Fortuin and Linde, or Linde more. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets game time and what is the plan. Because if you're looking at the World Cup, and we're saying now that Malan will probably not make it to the World Cup, and Andile also, but does that mean that Maharaj might make it to the World Cup? And why? Because why, if we already have Linde and Fortuin, do we see him being playing in the first 11 in the World Cup, or is it like a backup for one of the spinners if we decide to go with 3 spinners in the 11?
I mean, it might be a nod towards the way we want to play.
How I see it is that you're going to have your 15. Linde's your 1 spinner. Shamsi's your other spinner. Your 3rd spinner sitting on the bench would probably be Bjorn Fortuin, but you need somebody in the UAE as cover, and that's where George Linde comes in. That's where I see the guys like Bjorn Hendricks, Sisanda coming in, sitting on the outside of the squad in the 7-man who are going to be hanging around the bubble in case there's an injury. That's how I see it, and that's why I do think they wanted to give Maharaj an opportunity to tour with the side to get accustomed to everything, so that because he's played cricket for South Africa, so it's not going to be like a big thing bringing him in. It's just he knows the thing. It's just obviously from a T20 perspective, that's what you need to keep them in. So there's lots of names on that list, like that when the 15 comes that won't be there, and largely it's the bowlers.
Aditya, do you think it's maybe because they want to play that extra spinning all-rounder type of guy or a spinner that can bat instead of a Pichlakwayo? That's why they're giving maybe another spinner an opportunity in the squad. Do you think that that's maybe a thought process, seeing that it will be in the UAE?
Maybe. Perhaps they need to try out additional spinners apart from Shamsi, because Shamsi we know is going to play in Sri Lanka and he's going to play at the World Cup as well. But maybe it's an opportunity to give other spinners an opportunity. Figure out what's working in Sri Lanka against the batsmen that they've got. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the solution to that is by dropping Andile Pekluwayo, because it doesn't make sense if you look at the selection of the last few series, and then as Mpo said, they didn't play in the West Indies, he played a bit in the island, and then he comes here and he's not selected at all. So then we don't know what his status is going forward into the World Cup. So it's all a bit confusing, but I do hope that the spinners who get selected for the series they do well.
Yeah, because Zaida and likely that they'll pick both Vian and Dwayne in the same team, I think. That's why I'm looking at it and I'm saying, okay, you've dropped a seamer all-rounder, and for a spinner basically that also can bat a bit as well, backs himself as a spinner all-rounder in Maharaj. So are we looking to play 3 spinners perhaps? Is that maybe what we're looking for? And then Aiden Markham with the extra offies in between to add that extra bowling option. Is that a possibility, Paul? Because when we look at the guys in our group, being I think West Indies is in our group as well, so we see now they played against spin. If you look at the other competition that we have in that group as well, probably spin will be the biggest asset for South Africa then against these guys.
I think your max should be about 12 overs of spin if it's spinner-friendly conditions. You can get away with 10 overs in some seamer-friendly conditions, but the question is obviously who your third spinner is. And obviously Linda's in the 11. He's in the starting 11. That's not going to change. We're already starting with the 2 spinners. The question is, can you sneak in a third? It is possible if Keshav comes in, or even Bjorn Fortuin. They both can bat. I think their batting abilities are quite similar. But the question for me is, South Africa has a tendency to rely on those pacers who bowl a little bit slow. So I actually thought that they were going to play Mulder, Pretorius, and Linda as your three all-rounders on this tour, and then you have then KG and one of Anna and Lungi with Tabrez as your other 3 bowlers. So you got 2 overs to spin, and then if you need a bowl, Aiden Markham, which, oh Lord, please. It can't be. You can, but he can share a portion of the overs with a Vian who can bat lower down the order, which is why the Andile exclusion is very intriguing, because of the fact that he could have been your third seamer, and he could have batted at 8. So I think that's what they're trying to do, but it also gives them leeway to add a third spinner. It's very tough to bring in that third spinner, because that guy has to bowl at the top. He has to bowl in the power plays. And so Keshav's been a very good power play bowler. And I think he's probably one of the best power play spinners in the country. Him and Bjorn are fighting for that. So to a certain extent, it is an option for Timber to try. The only problem is I think we've got, I don't know how many T20s we have. I think we've got 5. Or was it 3? So it's I wish it was 5, because if it was 5, we'd be able to tinker and tweak and see what works. But it does give them room to add in that second spinner. I'd actually would have loved to have that second out-and-out spinner being Tahir, but I don't know what's going to happen there. I don't even think he's going to get selected, so I'm going to let that ship sail for a bit.
I was going to ask, Vern, I was going to ask you about that actually, Tahir. Because when you take 5 wickets and a hat-trick, after having so much time, hardly any time playing actually, even in his domestic teams, he's not really necessarily played as many games as we would have liked in the IPL. He's come in and played a couple. So he had quite an extensive break, you would say, from top quality cricket, and then you come back and you do that. So you can't ignore him, can you? Or what's going on there, would you say?
No, he is class, and I would play him, but it seems like they won't be going back to him. Not to forget, he did play the PSL, and his team won the final in the PSL, so they did win the tournament. So he did have some cricket, but at 42, still running marathons around the field. I really do enjoy Tahir, and I would love to see him and Shamsi bowling in tandem in the World Cup, but I don't think they're going that option. And also, it would probably weaken our batting lineup, except if we decide to play him ahead of one of our out-and-out seamers. But yeah, so I don't think they're going back to him. I don't know if it's a fitness issue, if they've just decided no, we have enough good spinners to not warrant bringing him back. That's probably because all our spinners have performed. To be fair, no one has been doing so badly that we need a spinner from outside the squad. So that's probably the reason.
Okay, final thoughts.
Just on the Tahir point. Also notice that I think somebody mentioned on Twitter the other day to me that the selection criteria is that you have to have played cricket for South Africa in the last, I don't know how many periods, and you have to have played domestic cricket in SA. Tahir does not meet that criteria. But if we were hoping for guys outside the squad to come into the squad, this was the series that needed to happen. Faf needed to join the squad for this series, even before he goes to IPL. Some culture things that needed to happen, I would have thought would have happened now in Sri Lanka. And then on top of that, Imran Tahir, there is a window. It's a small window, but it's before the IPL, and they could have squeezed them in. So I think what you're seeing now is the squad that actually is going to play at the World Cup. I don't think Faf's coming back, and I honestly don't think Imran Tahir's coming back, because if they were, they'd be playing these games because there's no other games after this. This is it. After these three, it's the World Cup. So I'd feel uncomfortable as a captain and a coach to bring an outside force into the squad who hasn't played with us over the last year or 18 months or even since the last World Cup to come in and play. And that's very disappointing from a selection and a player management standpoint, that we couldn't get these guys to come in now. Because what's going to happen is they're going to get to the World Cup. You're going to try and fit Faf into this new team culture or Tahir into this new team culture. It might not work out. It might not gel, because now you, as Werner says, you might be batting light. It might look completely different, and the balance might be off. And so I'm really, if that's the case, I'm happy that they're going to the World Cup with this. If these guys are going to come back after the IPL and join the squad, I'm really disappointed in them, because they needed to bring them in now. And if they didn't, then CSA have made a mess of all of this, because to a certain extent, we're watching these guys perform. At 42, that's fine. I'm not ageist. If he can do what he needs to do, you must do it well. But I think in the terms of managing all of this, and I know it's been hard with COVID and everything else, this should have been the last straw. I know I said the West Indies was the time I wanted to see those guys, but they couldn't, because guys are still playing PSL and everything else around the world. But I hope now that this is it. If they're unavailable because of the Caribbean Premier League, then yeah, that's pretty unfair. But this should be the team that we could take to the World Cup. You take 3 players off, and that's your final 15, and you go and try to see what you can do at the World Cup. And to a certain extent, I have no issues with the squad. They're going to learn a lot in Sri Lanka, and I hope they take what they learn in Sri Lanka and go on to the World Cup and see what they can do and fight and hopefully we'll get some promising results.
Yeah, Aditya, we've publicly been called idiots or stupid or foolish for not for asking whether Faf du Plessis would be in the World Cup squad or not. So on Twitter, we've been called out names and quite aggressively. So Aditya, do you agree with him, Paul, on this matter, that because we're not seeing him in the Sri Lanka squad, that's it for Faf and Tahir?
It is possible, but I'm not sure Cricket South Africa are doing a great job of communicating that, because as of now it appears as if those conversations are still happening, and from that conversation from the press conference with Enoch, he doesn't seem to know either. So the question is, who does know? And if
Only AB knows.
yeah, so I mean that's the question, right? Who does have information on this subject, and what's the final outcome of it? Because personally, if assuming, just to play devil's advocate, if Faf and Imran Tahir do come back into the team, more than anything, it's creating insecurity within the team, because they feel like whoever performs, irrespective, is not going to play in the World Cup because the experienced campaigners aren't going to return. So I don't think we're doing the players any favors either. And that to me is the biggest concern. I think in addition to performances in the Sri Lanka series, which in my view will really determine the state of mind that South Africa take going into the World Cup, this is the most pressing issue in my mind.
Your final thoughts, Werner?
Yeah, I agree. It would be the same as if we brought AB back in at the last moment. It would be an outcry from the one half, everybody saying, no, he can't come in at the last moment and he was going to drop out. And then the other half of the people was going to say, okay, great, we needed him for the World Cup. It would be the same if Faf and Tahir comes in right after the IPL with no game time for South Africa, even if they do very well in the IPL. But yeah, I agree with Aditya. There's no good communication from Cricket South Africa at this moment. Like yesterday, 2 days back, they announced the domestic league, and no journalists were able to ask any questions, and no clarity about when will the MSL be. Then they say afterwards, okay, no, we're going to announce it in September. So I really don't know what's going on around there, and we are all as fans are a bit confused about where things stand. So it is frustrating. But in terms of the T20 series to look forward to against Sri Lanka, I think it will be a very good test against the world number 2 bowler in Asaranga, who's been really lighting up the scene the last few months. I think it's going to be a big test from our batsmen. We know still have quite a bit of struggle quite a bit against the spinners. So it'll be interesting to see, especially if it's a slow turning wickets like it was against India. It's definitely going to test us. So let's see who can step up.
Yeah. So guys, sorry, I have to run off. I'm going to be taking part in a Super Sport quiz now tonight, so I'm going to have to go. But thanks a lot for everybody for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. As we said, this is the last live stream for our daily show, apart from our live Q&As that we were doing on a Friday evening. So you guys get your questions in on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, in the YouTube comment section. We'll answer it on tomorrow's show. And have a great evening, everybody. I'm looking forward to hearing what your squads are, because we want to see your team, your ODI 11s in the comment section afterwards. Which recently just launched the new issue of the magazine, which is all about coaching in South Africa. So go ahead and become a subscriber, download the magazine. This is the main thing, guys, for Cricket Fanatics. This is our name. This is our everything. So please go and support us. If you want to support us and really back us, download the latest issue of the magazine and subscribe. Everything's free, all the back issues as well. And don't worry, the content is not outdated, so you can still get the same amount of information and learn from the first issue as you can from the 14th issue. So thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you again tomorrow with our live Q&A show. Take care, everyone.